Record. Hi, thanks for talking with me, Matt. If I'm just going to give a quick introduction. I am Jacob Curtis. I'm a journalist. I work at Channel 7 in Denver. I covered the mushroom decriminalization campaign for the station. But in an overall broader sense, I've covered psychedelics and entheogens for at least 5 years. I've had an interest for a long time. So that's where I'm coming from. And maybe you could introduce yourself, Matt.
Yeah. Matthew Duffy. I go by Duffy. Joined the Denver Psilocybin Initiative, November 2018. And have since joined Kevin, co-founding SPORE, Society for Psychedelic Outreach, Reform, and Education. And I'm now serving as the chair of the board and living in Boulder in a master's program at Naropa called Resilient Leadership. And I'm just an ecologist, and I'm kind of obsessed with figuring out ways how to build community that is vibrant in its diversity and synergistic and mycelial. So kind of living my dream doing this work with SPORE. And it feels good to feel the community coming around this work in so many different ways and really starting to collaborate and get cohesive.
Yeah, and that word you just used, mycelial, is that something that you want to have people use more often? I mean,
Yeah,
like we're going through this
the
virus thing right now and viral, but that's a different vibe, right?
Yeah, I've been talking about that. I mean, I had a good conversation with a friend of mine from Denver about this specifically about I said that I have been using mycelial, the word mycelial in lieu of viral for a long time. Because I feel like it serves as a better model for us with how we conceive of our intention for how we spread information, work together, share resources, so on and so forth. You know, mycelium is very deliberate, and it focuses on intimate relationships and building connections. And it's this decentralized spread to share, not so much to like take over like a virus does, but to actually create life, solidarity. And virality is obviously, something that just spreads really quick. It replicates its RNA. It just gets in and infects and boom, boom, boom. And the way that information and art and media is spread these days is largely viral in its impact and its intent. So, we have these like massive sweeps of like meta consciousness shifts when some new information sweeps across the world or a virus just sweeps across the world. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just we're more resilient when we are deep in relationship with how we, try to evolve or develop consciousness and develop just resilience through our connections. Yeah.
Well, thank you for that, Duffy. I
And
know
I'm a
that.
nerd with it. People make fun of me I say mycelial way too much, but it's kind of my job, I guess.
Well, the thing is, I could probably talk to you about all of that for like an hour. Um, and I wanted to do that at some point. But today, I wanted to talk about the big news that SPORE had yesterday morning in a press release that two things that Dr. Bronner's magic soaps donated $50,000 to SPORE, and that you got a scholarship from a group, a nonprofit called Reconsider. And I'd just like to ask you about, how those things came about. And I guess start with Dr. Bronners, and then we'll talk about Reconsider. But so how did that come about, and what do you hope to do with the money?
Well, the relationship with Dr. Bronner has been developing for a while. I I believe Kevin made first point of contact with them, I don't know, like maybe 5 or 6 months ago. And we've just been, they're very involved with decriminalized nature at this point. And they've been very involved with the campaign in Oregon. They're super involved in the cannabis movement, and they've given a lot of money to MAPS over the years. And they've just been like major stewards and supporters of the psychedelic movement since way before Kevin or I were involved. Um, I think when we really became tight with the Bronner family was actually fostering the relationship between them and decriminalized nature. There was just a time when they hadn't really connected yet, so there were these psychedelic efforts that happening in Oregon, and then happening with Decrim Nature in Oakland, and then that was spreading and inoculating around the country. That weren't necessarily disjointed, maybe they were, but more so they just hadn't connected yet. So we built that bridge. That's the mycelial way. And then we have just been, in conversation with Bronner and different groups, and strategizing and offering support and just getting aligned with the movement as a whole. And yeah, I mean, we're a nonprofit, so we have to ask people for money. And Dr. Bronner, they're creating a whole fund called Brother Bronner, and it's more than a fund. It's like it's like an empowerment vehicle for psychedelic organizing. So they are very much ramping up to support initiatives like SPORE, and we just happen to be coming from the movement of the first city that decriminalized an entheogen. So it was sort of natural. The initial conversation was for a $10,000 contribution, and we were really excited for that. And then it was so awesome. We were just having a conversation about that 10K, and then David was just like, at the end of the conversation, he was like, "This feels good. I'm going to send $50,000."
Wow.
Like,
yeah.
and that's like all the seed funding you really need as a startup nonprofit. I mean, we're super lean. Kevin's, the only paid staff as the executive director, and then we have a board.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're volunteers. So yeah, we're trying to not spend it all at the fair. But, focusing on, finally getting Kevin paid,
right?
Because we need a full-time staffed executive director to do all the things that we need. And then now with coronavirus, it's kind of shifted everything for everyone. So it's really interesting, I imagine, to be any sort of startup in this time. It's really, there's a lot of challenges and opportunities for really everyone. But for an organization, especially one like us, where we're so much about building community, our mission is essentially outreach, reform, and education. And coincidentally, that O is first in the acronym, but outreach is really the place where we have to start. We have to build connections and build bridges, and start to, really rally this community and start garnering information about, what are the community concerns? What are the community needs? Where does the community need support? Where are the great ideas? And the needs are diverse and incredibly valuable, and the ideas are incredibly valuable across the fold. So we're focusing on figuring out ways how to engage our community digitally, and really focusing on Denver. Um, and this might necessarily not cost too much money, but we're planning on having like digital city halls. And I don't want to give too much of it away because this is its own announcement in itself.
Right.
But also, having facilitating and bringing conversations with different leaders of the psychedelic movement, and trying to develop leadership in this time where we're all having to be quarantined. Um, so that might come with putting some of that money towards creating really engaging content. Perhaps developing our social media team earlier than later, and just kind of ramping up our whole our digital presence. And then, yeah, I mean, we once we have our fully agreed budget and business plan, like we're still in that phase, so we have so much of our fundamental foundation built, but we're having to completely pivot our strategic plan and business plan, budget, and everything like that. All that stuff is going to be public, which I think is one of the coolest things of being a nonprofit. Nonprofit is, we don't own it. The public owns it. So we exist in the public trust. Hold on, there's a loud noise.
That's okay. I did hear it for a second there, but it's not a big deal.
Okay.
But you were saying, the cool thing about being a nonprofit is that you've got this layer of transparency, and it also belongs to the public. And
And
I
yeah,
just wanted to interject there that, congratulations on the Dr. Bronners donation. And I know that they've been, supporting the psychedelic medicine movement for a while. They were at MAPS in 2017. They did a $3 million donation, I think, to MAPS.
I was actually at that conference randomly, and
Wow.
it was in Oakland, and it was
Yeah,
5
yeah.
million. Yeah,
Oh, was it 5 million? Okay, sorry. Well,
I happened to walk in the room when it was like just first announced, and there was Bronner soap everywhere. That I still have bottles of Bronner soap.
I still have that little MAPS
Oh, were
Bronner
you there in
bottle.
Oakland?
I actually, which was a cool thing. I've been to all three of those. So I started in
Whoa.
2010, the first one in San Jose, and so that was kind of cool to see the evolution of the MAPS conferences, and how they're going. And it's just been really neat to see it go from something that was pretty small, and then Sasha Shulgin was there for that one, to see it really blossom and get really big in 2017. So yeah, the MAPS conferences, everyone was like, I'll go next year. I'm like, that's not how it works. I don't know when they're going to have a next one, especially now with coronavirus. But they did have something in the fall of 2019 in Austin, Texas. I think it was just a weekend, but still. Um, Anyways, I mean, yeah, Dr. Bronners has been a great advocate and patron for the psychedelic movement. So congratulations on that. And, maybe you could talk about this group, Reconsider. I don't think people are familiar, as familiar. I mean, everybody knows Dr. Bronners, right? But maybe you could talk about Reconsider and who they are, and how you got connected with them, and what the scholarship means.
Yeah, so the scholarship is their fiscal sponsor. So while we are um, we're getting our last little pieces that we need to submit everything to the IRS in the next couple weeks for to begin the process of achieving 501c3 status, so you can receive tax exempt donations. In the mean, I'm just breaking this down because a lot of people
Yeah.
don't know how this works. In the meantime, nonprofit or an individual, you can get a fiscal sponsor so you can receive these tax exempt donations for a project. And so that's how they're supporting us. But there's so much more to us than that too. They're reconsiders the they're not the only, but they're pretty much the main producer of Fantastic Fungi. So folks probably have heard of that or seen it. Um, the that film is just such a powerful force for the entire movement right now. It's like it's changing that in and of itself. Its ability to shift conscious is massive, and that's really Reconsider's focus. They've done a few other films like this. They're kind of like a revolutionary film production company or nonprofit, and they also, that's like one of their branches, and then they also do trainings. It's this loud noise again, I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's not a big deal.
So the they do they basically facilitate um community healing and development through like connecting with heart and purpose with groups, from like, you know, small teams to bigger organizations to like townships. And it's just really cool. I really encourage people to check them out, and especially in a time like this, um you know, if folks have any projects that they're trying to launch and they're kind of scrambling to figure out new ways how to um, connect their and develop their team's synergy. Um, First of all, just watch that film Fantastic Fungi together. That'll do it. But also Reconsider is just a really great ally, and they're just like wisdom keepers and guides for this movement. But they're kind of
Yeah,
in the background.
that film is just visually stunning. I watched it this past weekend with my mom. She was blown away. Just really great filmmaking techniques of the watching the mushrooms grow and the time lapse. One of the things that I liked or I found interesting on their About Us page on the Reconsider was, you know, they were talking about how one of the big problems is separation from ourselves, separation from others, and separation from nature. And one of the um, lines that I really liked is that they are encouraging people to break free of the stories that don't serve us. And I love that message, because there's so much information onslaught, so many things that are being told to us, sold to us, um, that anyways, I mean, it is it is a it's a good point to break free of stories that don't serve us. It's the tape that plays in your head. Um, but anyways, I thought that was a really uh, great line there. So
Yeah, I mean, our stories are massively important. Um, and I think on that, what I want to say is, in the psychedelic movement, there's a term that gets thrown around, the psychedelic renaissance, um, which I believe is an incredible vision, whatever that looks like for us individually, for us to hold to, for a world that works for all of us, for a world that's more compassionate, that is really um, you know, society and community that works together and supports each person in really becoming fully who they are and to serve the whole, you know. That's at least my kind of my idea of what that means to me. um, but it's really important to not convince ourselves that we're there yet, you know what I mean?
there's so much
And
more work to be done, right?
to hold that vision, to have that vision of this, you know, and we should be wary of like any kind of utopian obsession, um, so we're not blinded by the light. But to have that as, you know, something that we tap into and that our hearts consistently yearn for, And that gives us the commitment and conviction to keep rising every day, even and especially in times like these, where the world is we feel like the world is slowing down, but it's not. The world is still spinning. It's not on a streaming service where you pause it. Shit is still happening, excuse me. And there is a space that's opening up, but it's not, I just kind of feel like while we're, having a little Zoom soapbox, that I see a lot of notions about like how this is just going to definitely provide like a net benefit to the earth, like the earth is healing, and not necessarily. Like the EPA just dropped all of its, basically has a moratorium on pollution restrictions right now. And we're bailing out the airline industry and so on and so forth. And so whatever this space that's opening up is filled with is not, it's not a given. We have to give it. And so I really hope that folks who are engaged in the psychedelic movement really rise to this occasion to start filling this vision that we are all talking about of a psychedelic renaissance, and try to bring it closer to the actual fold of our common world. But that's
Yeah, I mean, that's, you're talking about the coronavirus, obviously, and all the huge impact that it's had. And I've had those discussions too, where, it, like, this is a window of, I don't want to put it too crassly to say this is a window of opportunity, but it's just a chance for us to rethink things and really go forward with what we want the world to look like. But like you said, I mean, there's the whole government response to it with the bailouts, and but yeah, I mean, it's an interesting time to be in the world. So hopefully people have more time to reflect. That's what I hope for this whole shutdown situation. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of wrap it up, and give you that opportunity to say, what's your message to people out there? What's Spore's main message, and what do you want to tell folks at home that are going to be watching this, in terms of moving forward? You've got the scholarship and you got the donation. You talked about outreach, but I guess what's your main message to folks in this next year moving forward?
I mean, in general, don't stop building community. With all the social distancing and having to quarantine, we have to come together too. So that's what we're doing. We are, we're lit up right now. I think I have felt an energy with Spore that it feels very sacred and empowering, and how I feel like what is coming through our team is just this conviction to be steadfast, and not like we're stopping, we're pausing, we're reflecting, and we're really allowing what's happening with the world to shape us, and meeting it with our hearts. But we're not stopping the work that we're here to do, which is to connect folks. So for the movement, however you consider yourself part of this psychedelic movement, Spore is here to support you. That's basically all we want to do. We want to help connect you to the resources and the network that can help you actualize your vision. And we want to bridge it into a broader movement so it's synergistic, so that, all of the reform and the different community social enterprises and the education programs and projects or whatever that we're a part of, receive a benefit from being connected with us and are empowered from that connection, and also feed into the larger movement. So yeah, we look at this movement as an ecosystem, and we're just here to foster that, and we're here. Kevin and I are pretty much the most regular dudes ever. No, we're not. We're pretty weird, but we're very approachable. And we've got Facebook. My email is duffy@thespore.org, Duffy. Reach out. Just let us know how we can show up for you in these times. And if you have a project or an idea or a way that you want to get involved, we would love to hear from you.
Well, thank you for that, Duffy, and wish you all the best. And yeah, keep moving forward and organizing mycelially. I love it. I'm gonna try to work that into the word of the day. Gonna work that into a sentence today. So, anyways, have a good day, and thanks for chatting.
Thanks, Jacob. Real quick, I just appreciate you, man. You've been such a great help this whole time. Yeah, man. Love and liberation. Stay peaceful, peeps. Take care. Take risk.
Thank you.
Peace.